Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another beautiful Monday and also another amazing episode of Parent Power Hour, where we are joined by the amazing Mrs. Karen Lawrence, the Ombudsman for Baltimore City Public Schools. As always, when we get started, Miss Karen, we usually ask we usually do like a connection question, and that's just to kind of, connect with you. Some have you connect with the audience, so it's something kind of light and airy. And today, so as we just connected, I heard you say like you've been hearing so much and all those kind of things. So I'm thinking that our connection question today would be, so that we can just get a sense of who Miss Karen is. If there was something about Baltimore City's school system that Miss Karen could change, what would it be and why? And folks, as Miss Karen answers this question, you all please share the live and put your answers to that question also in the comments.
If there's one thing I could change about city schools, is that what the question is?
And why? Yes, ma'am.
Why? Okay, so the way I look at city schools, I don't look at it as a separate entity from the rest of the environment and the rest of the community. And I would say that I would change the way people decide how to perceive things. For example, in every situation that we look at, we have a choice. We can choose either best case scenario or worst case scenario. So there are a lot of questions. There are a lot of questions about what's going on, who's doing this, what's happening with that. And people don't know, and they hear things. And what I wish would happen is that when you don't know what's going on, choose best case scenario. Because when we choose worst case scenario, we're playing into that very negative, and it's kind of stressful and bad news. We have enough bad news. We got so much bad news in the atmosphere. So when you don't know what's going on, choose best case scenario.
I mean, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Karen. Choose best case scenarios. You heard it from Ms. Karen. When you don't know what's going on, choose best case scenarios. I like that a lot. Again, folks, family, y'all, please chime in, tell your thoughts, y'all. Share the live definitely, and come with your questions and your thoughts for our City School Ombudsman. For me, if I could change something about city schools, it would be, it's so many things I would like to change, but since we're going to just stick with one, I would like to change the amount of students to one classroom. I know that with less students to a teacher, students will be able to get far more attention was needed. It would be easier on teacher and better for students to be able to learn at a capacity that's, capable for them, right? Because they could get what they need as one. When you're trying to teach 30 plus students as one person, good God Almighty, that's hard. And you have limited time, limited resources, and everything. Could we imagine what a classroom would look like? Let's say 15. Let's just say 15. Good God Almighty, the outcomes could be amazing. But I'm not going to spend forever on that right now, speaking about that. Thank you all for joining, y'all. Again, please share the live. And as a quick reminder, right immediately following this show, you all, today we are having our meeting at 6:00 p.m. sharp, where we are looking for stakeholders to talk about what it is that they would like to see on our new governor's education platform. So it's super important that folks be there at this meeting. So to get us started, Ms. Karen, could you please explain to our folks who don't know and those who may not have the correct meaning of what your job is? What is an ombudsman?
Okay, so many governmental agencies and huge corporations have an ombudsman who serves as a vehicle through which the voice of the little guy can be heard. So, and heard, not just heard, but heard at the highest levels of the organization. Some ombudsmen work for the board of directors. When this position was crafted, Andres Alonso was the superintendent, well, the CEO, and the position was identified as CEO ombudsman. So what I attempt to do is to hear from the public on behalf of the CEO. So people don't necessarily have to go straight to, in this case, Dr. Santelises. They can come to me for unresolved issues, things that they haven't been able to make headway on, or if they feel like they haven't been heard, so that's what the ombudsman does, gives a voice to the little guy. A lot of times people feel like it's a big bureaucracy, nobody's going to listen to me. I call and I'm not getting the response I'm looking for. So my job is to be that voice for the little guy, for the person that feels unempowered. Okay. So that's what, and the other thing that I do, I try to keep stuff off of the CEO's plate because she got enough on the plate. Okay. So if I can handle things and resolve things before it gets to her, then that's better. That's all the better. Okay.
Okay.
So let me add that in dealing with what I deal with are inquiries, concerns, and complaints that have not been resolved, at either the school level or the district level. All right. So in resolving those complaints and concerns, I'm able to impact policy. Because let's say, for example, I keep hearing the same complaint, then that forces me to say, well, maybe we need to take a look at the policy. Maybe we need some revisions there because people are not, understanding, or they're missing something. So maybe we need to do a better job of laying out the policies and procedures. And I'm just going to add one other thing about that. When it comes to policy and practices, policies and regulations, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the policy kind of tells what it is. The regulations tell you how to implement the policy, all right? So when that happens, then I'm able to have a larger impact. Not I, but the office is able to have a larger impact because then we can suggest adjustments. And if people have a better understanding of the policy, then they can act, more accordingly. So that's another plus from being in this position.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, first of all, and thank you for all that you do. I can only imagine that the job is I can only imagine that the job is definitely not an easy job, right? Or nothing. So we, definitely thank you and appreciate. And again, for those who are watching, you all, please, I hope you heard who Miss Karen Lawrence is and what she does, and also the influence, right, that she have on policy and regulation. So if you don't know her, get to know her, right? Like you should definitely be getting to know her.
But Mr. Barwell, but not all at once, okay?
No. Right, y'all. Listen, okay. Don't overwhelm everybody that's here. Don't storm and overwhelm y'all. We don't want to lose someone. You seem to have an amazing, energy and spirit about you, and I appreciate that. This is my first time meeting you, but I appreciate the energy that I'm feeling from you, and the genuineness, and I can already sense a real concern. Feel a concern from you. So I love that already. So folks, so we do not want to run Miss Karen away, okay? But we want you all to follow our model, right? And build relationship with Miss Karen first, okay? Get to know her as you come, build relationship with our city school ombudsman, and then go at her. All right. That's
Exactly.
what we need you to do now. Ms. Kern, also, could you tell us what are some of the concerns that people bring to you or have brought to you over time that you can, give us an example of?
Okay, so the concerns are of numerous, all kinds of things. It could be academic, it could be social, it could be bullying, it could be just policy questions. Now, the huge concern right now is the impact of COVID on our functioning. So we're dealing with a situation that's unprecedented in terms of the challenges that we're facing. And we're all facing these challenges. And every single one of us is impacted by these challenges, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. There's a high level of fear, just plain old fear, and it's understandable. And we're trying to operate, in a way to mitigate the fear. But to be honest, it's a real struggle because things are constantly changing. As soon as it seems like things might be settling down or we're making some progress, then there's an outbreak, you know what I mean, quote unquote, or there's something new that comes to the surface. So that is, that's where we're getting most of the concerns at this point is really about safety in terms of physical safety, health safety, and those kinds of issues. So those are really at the forefront right now. I would say commensurate with that is the breakdown in relationships. So if you think about it, our kids have been away, quote
Yeah.
unquote, for 18 months. They haven't had that social interaction. They haven't had the chance to go through the rites of passage. It's like there's been a big void, and they've been out for 18 months. And most of the emphasis is, wow, they're losing so much academically. We got to get things back on track. So the system is being forced. It's like, we got to do something. So we bring the kids back, but then we realize that, you know what, there's some other issues impacting them that I think perhaps as a not just as a system, but as a state, as a country, that we didn't really foresee, the degree to which we've all been so impacted. The social norms have been shattered. It's like, we're coming off of where were we? And how do we get back to, quote, normal, unquote? And I think that is the single biggest challenge is to try to get us back to norms, to regular old norms. How do we get along with each other? How do we treat each other? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we're seeing, and that's across the board. That's across the board. That's from child to adult. We all got to consider our humanity. This disease, this pandemic has forced us to be self-centered. It's forced us to, how do I save myself? And that's a very human condition.
Yes.
On the other hand, I always believe there's a silver lining. The other hand, it has also caused us to actually look at each other, and perhaps see that your pain is like my pain. So there's an opportunity for us to really start showing that we care about each other, while at the same time we're scared to death, in our hearts and in the way we act. And that affects everybody, and it especially affects the children.
Yes.
Because they just look to us, to be that guiding light, to make everything all right. And well, one of the few times in history, we can't make everything all right. We just can't.
Wow. Yeah.
We cannot not try. We have to pull out every tool in our toolkit. Well, let's try this. Let's try that. Let me just give a little background about me.
I love it. Give it to
us. I was born in 1948. I just turned 73 in the 1200 block of McCullough Street. I went to Henry Highland Garnett Elementary School. I went to Booker T. Wood Junior High School. From there, I went to Easton High School. From there, I went to Morgan State College. And from there, I went to Johns Hopkins University. And from there, I went to the University of Baltimore School of Law. So all that background was, and I'm a woman of faith, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but that was the Lord preparing me for the assignment that He had for me. When I became a teacher in 1974, I taught business education. I taught typing. Okay, went to from Green Spring Middle School to Garrison Middle School to Northwestern High School as the business education department head. From Northwestern to assistant principal at Harbor City Learning Center, to principal at Lyndhurst Elementary School, to principal at Heritage High School, which was in Lake Clifton, and I landed in as the ombudsman in 2011. All right, and I've been here ever
10
since.
years.
And I'm telling you that everything that I experienced helped prepare me to play this role, a very important role. And I'm not saying these things to make myself look good. I'm saying them to show where I've been, what I've come through, what my experiences have been. And because of that, I am able to see, I am able to help. And in addition to that, I care. You know, everybody who works in education has to care. And I believe from my experience in all of these 48 years in January, that the people that are most successful are the ones who care about each other, about your colleagues, about your children, about just people. You got to have a sense of caring if we're going to be successful. That's the bottom line.
Absolutely.
The bottom line, the floor of performance is I know how to treat people. Okay, and you know we're told how to treat people. How do we treat people? Treat people like you want to be treated. And I'm going to be honest with you because I understand that, because I practice it. I fall on my face plenty of times. I miss deadlines. You know, I don't get back like I should. But you know what? My heart is in the right place. I'm really trying. And I think that what we have to do as human beings, we have to give each other the benefit of the doubt. Don't always go back to what I said. Don't always assume the worst. You don't know what that person's been through. You don't know what their experience has been. You can't judge a book by its cover. So we just have to, and the only way we can do that, Mr. Barnwell, is to be humble. You've got to have a sense of humility. You ain't all that. You don't know everything. But
this is so true.
I'm a firm believer, though. I believe we have the answers. But notice I said we have the answers.
Absolutely.
I don't have the answers. You don't have the answers. But you know what? When we put our heads together and we stop treating each other like we're the enemy, put our heads together, we can come up with the solutions that we need for the times that we are in. We are not helpless. We're smart. God has given us great minds. We're smart. And if we care, we'll work through our issues and our problems. And we'll look for the best in everybody and not look for the worst.
If we didn't have questions and people weren't already here, I would end the show now, because that was a message and so eloquently said and beautiful. And I appreciate you. Sorry for for saying that, put it out there again. I felt the energy and I loved it. But to go on one, I want to acknowledge some things that our guests have said. And well, first of all, I want you to, you might have seen me do this, and this is what we call nuggets. We call that dropping nuggets on this show. And you've done that in speaking, so that's why you see me do that. And you'll probably see, I'm pretty sure you'll see me do that throughout the show. But you have people, our folks who are watching, our family is saying, so true. Yes, Miss Karen, thank you for being here. Good evening, Miss Lawrence. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate Karen's perspective on what this time is about. COVID gets us in touch with our fears and
Mm-hmm.
connections,
Mm-hmm.
and and it's so true. And so, thinking about, we have gotten so many different concerns, and we've had so many different shows and topics around COVID. So, if I came to you with some type of issue or something related to COVID, could you explain to us how you would handle that? To give us an example of just
Okay.
how this thing works. How would you handle it? What could we expect to get from Miss Karen, the Ombudsman?
Okay, so if someone calls me and they have a concern about the COVID protocols, for example,
Mm-hmm.
that exist in schools, there's a big, huge document about who's supposed to do what, when this happens, if this shows up, then this happens, and so forth and so on. And I'm learning those because I'm no expert. I didn't sit down and write those protocols. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
my function, what I do, if I can't answer your question, I'll get you an answer. Okay. So what I do is, I don't ever say, "Oh, I don't know. See you later." Okay, no, oh, that's somebody else. No, 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 no. So what I'll do, I don't care what comes across my desk. I don't ever want it to be said that the person was ignored. Now, sometimes I may not get back to you when I said I would. Okay, forgive me. Okay, it's called being human, but that's never my
Yes.
intention. But
Mm-hmm.
I will find the answer. I don't care what question you ask. If it's nothing to do with what I do, I'm
Mm-hmm.
still going to find you the answer. Okay. So what
Got
I
you.
do with COVID, we have experts in the protocols, and I know their names, and I reach out to them, and I share with them emails I get. Can you give us some advice on how to respond to this? What are the major issues? So usually, you know what I do? You know what I do? I ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not this purveyor of all knowledge. Okay. I ask questions. When somebody presents a problem, I say, well, tell me about this. And did this happen? And what was the response to that? And I was talking to one of my colleagues some time ago, and I was telling him the same. I said, all I do is ask questions. And you know what he said? He said, but Miss Lawrence, you ask hard questions.
Questions.
You know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
dig deep. Before I will come out of my mouth with something, I will make sure that I am well grounded in the
Mm-hmm.
facts as they have been shared with me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't attest to anything I did not see for myself. But that's why you have investigations, because you do fact finding.
Yep.
This person said this person said that, you know, and I also do mediations. I do mediations with principals and parents, colleagues. Okay. So
Okay.
whenever we get to a point where we can't see eye to eye, we can't come together, then we need to work through it. We need mediation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, it works. And then the other part of the ombudsman is that if we can't reconcile or resolve the problem, then I have to make a decision on behalf of the CEO. Okay.
Got you.
And I
Got you.
can tell you, to be honest, I've had to do that so few. I
Mm.
have not had to make a whole lot of decisions. Well, this is how it's going to go. I haven't had to do that because I've been able to mediate. I've been able to bring people together because my goal is reconciliation. Okay, so we got a problem. Let's talk about it and let's resolve it. How can we resolve it? And then after we resolve it, in other words, fix the problem, then how can we come back together?
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
How can
Yeah.
we put aside what was separating us so that we can continue to move forward working together? Reconciliation is always my goal. And I find
Amazing.
when I can't reconcile, then I have to make a decision. Somebody's not going to be happy with the decision. But that's a part of life. And then we always have a vehicle through which you don't like the ombudsman decision. then you can go to the CEO.
The
You can go
CEO.
to the board.
Got you.
Yeah, that's
Got
how
you.
that works. That's how that
Got
works.
you. Yeah. So so for for those who are watching and everyone who's joining and my age and a little younger and everything, what Miss Current is in another term is called the plug. That's
Oh,
what we call you're the plug, right? You're the plug.
right.
You're the connector, to that power source and everything. That's what we would call you. We would call you the plug. And again, thank you again for so much. We do have a great question.
Okay.
Well, we have many of them, but I definitely want to get to this question now, because after you've explained your experience and your history within the school system, so not only being an ombudsman now for 10 years, but your 48 years of experience within the system, I think I'm waiting to hear your answer to this question. And the question is, how can we work less in silos? How can
Mhm.
parents and teachers and the district work together better?
Better, better working together. So I think that in order for us to work better, and that goes for any system, anything,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's the family unit, it's the church, whether it's the whatever the job uh, is to number one, to be honest. Okay, honest. We just gotta tell the truth. Be honest, and also transparent. Okay,
Yeah.
so honesty and transparency, you know, goes a long way to solving problems. And pretty much that's what we do from the time we're able to walk and talk. We're solving problems.
Yep.
We're facing challenges. And the challenges and the problems that we face grow us. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, so I think that is what we have to do. We have to remember that a system is made up of people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's made up of people. And I call people software. You got to deal with people differently than you would deal with a machine or
Mm-hmm.
a computer. There are some people that are not good with working with people. They're much better working with technical stuff. You know what I mean? Sitting in front of, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. But when you put yourself in a position where your role is to work cohesively with other people, to follow other people or lead other people, then you got to have people skills. You have to
Mm-hmm.
have a basic respect for all humanity. And you have to recognize that the only thing that separates us are our roles and responsibilities. I'm no better than you. You are no better than me. On one level, we're all human beings. And we
Mm-hmm.
all pretty much have the same basic needs as human beings. But when we get into these roles, some people get filled up. They get the big head, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And some people shrink, because they feel like I'm not as important as this one. That's why it's so important for us to edify each other, to build
Mm-hmm.
each other up, and not tear each other down. We're quick to do that. We're quick to
Mm-hmm.
assume worst case scenario. I used
That
to tell
that
my
that.
kids that when I was principal. I would tell my kids that all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
I stayed connected to my kids. I knew my kids. I always had something for them. They could always come to me. I'll never forget a student said to me that, see, Miss Lawrence, you always want to know what happened. You don't shove your authority down our throats.
Mm.
Okay.
That's
And
yeah.
that can go to anybody. That's
That is.
not
Mm-hmm.
just principal to student. That
Mm-hmm.
could be boss to whatever.
Yeah.
All authority, again, forgive me, all authority comes from God, and He gives us authority to make people's lives better. He
Yeah.
doesn't give us authority to, nail people and destroy them. No, no. Our job is to build each other up, and I sincerely believe that. I sincerely believe that, and I've always strived to do that.
I definitely don't want to, and thank you, Yaji, for your comment. I see your comment, and I want to make sure that I'm being very careful in how I phrase this, because I definitely don't, I don't want to blame you, Miss Lawrence, at all for this. But I'm pretty sure you have heard, and there's been so much talk because you use the words honest and transparency, right?
Right.
And which is what we believe in. That's how you get there. But there's been this disconnect, okay, with stakeholders and the district. A lot of people say that the district, and again, not you
And
in
this,
your
I
position,
understand.
but
I understand.
overall that, that there is not real honesty and transparency from the district, right? So
Mhm.
how, and again, yeah, one of our regulars watch it. I've experienced it also, okay, as a parent, and being in a space where I felt like there was there's this big disconnect with real transparency, from there. So how do we
Well, I tell you what. I tell you what.
build?
Okay.
How do we begin to build the trust, right, between
Okay.
the stakeholders and the district?
Okay. So let me kind of clarify the transparency.
Okay.
Transparency where you can be transparent. Okay. There's some things that are not open in the public domain. Okay.
Okay.
Things like personnel record, there's stuff like there's some things that you really they're confidential. Okay. When I say transparency, what I mean is that for those things that are out in the public domain, that you acknowledge that. So if something comes out in the public domain and it's true,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to acknowledge it. We have to acknowledge it. You
Mm-hmm.
can't say that, oh, that doesn't exist, because it does exist. And then you have to come up with a response, one that's based in truth, and one that's based in acknowledging um, your intelligence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can't talk to people like they, I want to say, okay, we can't talk to people like they don't know anything. Okay. You know, that's a complaint that I often get about from parents. They say, well, this person in this position talked down to me.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's a
Yep.
problem. That's a
Yep.
problem. So nobody should feel like, no matter what position you hold, nobody should feel like they're being talked down to. It just does something to people. And when you're talking about having, a workforce that's committed and eager, then you got to care about your people. You got to
Mm-hmm.
be taking care of your people, that they want to come. I used to, as principal, I used to want my teachers happy coming to work.
Yeah.
I didn't want people drag, oh Lord, I gotta go in this place. No, no, I want them to come in, ready to work,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that they were valued. And it's hard to do that, like in a big bureaucracy, but it
Mm-hmm.
can be done in small pieces.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
for the leadership of the different, areas and roles and responsibility, they can do that for their people, because it's not so many people that they have to take care of. You understand? So it's like it can. That's what I mean by we can figure this out. We can work this thing. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean by transparent. It doesn't mean everything is open to the public. You get to see everything. No, 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 no. But you get to see the things that matter, the things that people care about, and you try to expose it in such a way that here's our problem, okay? Not the district's problem, our problem. You got to bring the people into helping you fix the problems,
Yeah.
because otherwise you'll always have a stalemate. It'll be this side against this side, and each side digs in. No, no, that's not how we were built. We were
Mm-hmm.
built familiar as families.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
connected. It's all about relationship. Is there a relationship? Does the district have a relationship with its constituents, with its families? And that goes what to the mayor's office. the governor's office. This is what you were
Mm-hmm.
talking about. It's
Yeah.
like, you, yeah. How do we make those connections? Well, I don't know all the answers,
Mm-hmm.
but I know what's absolutely necessary. You got to care about people, and you got to know how to treat people.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to prepare yourself. You got to know what you're talking about. You got to do your homework. You know what I mean? You can't have a job and you're not sure about all your roles and responsibilities and you don't know the nuts and bolts. Like I told you, if they call me and I don't know, I'm going to go to the people who have all the nuts and bolts. So you got to be prepared. Let me share this one thing with, and I don't want to talk too much, but let me say this to you.
Yeah.
When
Okay.
I was a principal, I prayed. I said, Lord, tell me what things are necessary to get through to my children. And he told me competence, you got to know what you're talking about. You got to be prepared. You understand? Commitment. So once you know, you got to do it. You got to be
Mm-hmm.
committed to doing it. And finally, compassion. Three C's: competence, commitment, and compassion. Now, you apply those three things to everybody, every organization, every office, every endeavor. I don't care what it is. Apply those three things, and things will be better because you
Mm-hmm.
got what you need. And also, when you don't know, be humble enough to acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
Stop trying to carry like you know everything. You don't know everything. In fact, you really know very little because all you know is what you see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? You all you know is what you see. And what was that old saying? Believe half of what you
Half of
see
what you see and none of
and
what, yeah, of what you
none of what
mm-hmm.
you hear.
Yeah.
So what we have going on in the atmosphere now is that people are believing lies and misinformation all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And we're not immune to that.
Yeah. It's so, I think it's so much, like you said, it's like a lot of stuff that we hear. And I will say again for myself and for those others who are watching that, there have been this strong push to feel like and to get to be a part of work, with the district and these higher up places, right? Like with the mayor's office and
Right,
elected officials and stuff like
right.
that. And, and some have not been as open, and willing to work with people. But I totally agree that if we can really get to that place,
Yeah,
right, where there's no big I's and little U's,
right,
and we
right.
can all work together, that we could really see a difference. I want to, let me see
Yes.
the relationship with the teachers.
Let me say one other thing. Everybody you just mentioned are public servants.
Yeah.
Okay? And I think that those of us who are in these positions have to understand that we're here to serve, not to be served.
Mm-hmm.
The public servants. We get paid to serve. Okay? And that's wonderful. It's a blessing.
Yeah.
But we have to understand that we're here to serve. And the word administration, the root word in administration is minister. So we are ministering all the time. And the question for us, are we doing a good job? Or are we slacking?
Mm-hmm.
Are we competent? Are we making ourselves competent by studying and reviewing and if we're competent, are we committed? Are we really committed?
Mm-hmm.
And since we're working with people, you ain't getting nowhere without love. So forget that. So that's your compassion. That's why I said some people they struggle with that. They rather not be around people working with people. They rather work on a machine, and that's
Right.
good too.
Right.
But yes,
We need everybody in every position. I was so, and I think I know your answer, but I'm going to ask this is here. And you mentioned you just gave us a 3 C's, and that is, what do you see as the root cause of most of the problems that you encounter, that you hear from, parents and other stakeholders?
the root cause of most of the problems.
Mm.
So you must want me to preach.
I mean, listen, we still got a few moments. I got a couple of questions. You thought it wasn't gonna go an hour, right? But we
Wow.
3 thirds through. We ain't got that much time left, so it goes and the questions come.
The roots of our problem, I think that one of the roots of our problems is the inequities, that we see, as a community, we've struggled, being an African American community, and no offense to anybody who isn't, but our story is one of struggle, and we often get the short end of the stick. All the stories that, how we treated. I mean, I could go on and on about what we did through the civil rights movement and where we are now. And I think that the inequities play a big part. I think that some of the anxiety and the anger that we see in our kids has to do with inequities. You know what I mean? Some of us who looked like we got everything we need at our fingertips, struggling day by day just to have the bare necessities. And I do think that the root cause is that,
Right.
that is just so much out there that people are not getting that they should have. So I think that because of that, when they run across a situation where they know they should have something and they don't get it, then they're angry, and then they see the next person, getting what they asked for, but they didn't.
What they deserve. Yeah.
And there needs to be consistency. So I always use my point of reference is always as the principal, but I relate that to everything else that I do, all relationships, is that when you try to run a school or an organization, you have to be consistent. You know what I mean? You have to treat, if this is the situation, that's where policy comes in. Policy tells you, policy is like the umbrella, okay? That's the framework under which we operate. But if it's a living policy, it's going to change. Think about our policies are changing right now because we went from in-person always 100% to virtual almost 100%. So the policies give us the framework with which to operate, okay? And we need to be consistent, so that people see a sense of fairness. If it's consistent, even children will tell you that. You know what I mean? Well, no, that's what happened to him. So yeah, that's why it happened to me. Or they'll say, well, you didn't say that to him. Why are you saying it to me? Okay.
Right.
But because the policy is a framework, we also have to be flexible, Mr. Barwell. So rigid that we're not willing to operate outside if the situation calls for. Because the policy is not going to work for every single situation. Okay, but the policy will work for most of it. So you got to have the courage to operate outside the policy. So another function of mine is I hear appeals. So let's say that decisions are made at the school or the district office, and the parent or community member is not satisfied. I don't think this is fair for my situation.
Okay.
They can appeal. They can appeal to my office. Okay.
Okay.
And I'll hear everything. And if after looking at all of the information I have, if I decide that, well, this is not going to fit, we have to operate outside the policy in this case. Okay.
Got you.
I have the comfort and I have the confidence of the CEO to make a decision on her behalf. So what I have to get an idea of the CEO's heart, or where her mindset is in terms of certain things. So when I make a decision, I'm saying to myself, then what would Dr. Santa Lisa do with this situation? You know what I mean? Because that's my job is as CEO Ombudsman.
Yeah.
But the other part is that what would I do with it? Okay. And if I get to a place where I'm not sure, then I'll ask.
Got you.
If
Yep.
I'm not sure before I put myself out there and say, well, this is what we're going to do, and the city say, wait, hold. No, I don't want that. I want that.
Right. Right.
I want consistency. I want to be saying the right thing. Somebody told me a long time ago that don't try to be a good principal. Try to be a good person.
Mm.
Don't try to be a good at what you do.
That's right. Just a good human, a good person.
Be a good person.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then you're able to be the good principal or the good basketball player, the good whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Start to be a good person.
Without a doubt. Listen, see, we told you about the time. We're gonna have to do a part 2. I want to definitely get to this question.
Okay.
It's so many more I want to get to. And thank you, Natalia, for this question. As a parent who wants to help build up our schools, but often see our families are handled and or kept at a distance, what advice do you have for families that want to get more involved in their schools, assuming we communicate with compassion, commitment, and competent? What next?
Okay, so you are a parent and your child attends a certain school, and you have some questions about, well, wonder why they're doing this, or wonder why they operate that. You got to ask the questions, okay? You go to the source, you ask the questions. Now, if you don't get answers to your questions, then you have to elevate the concern, okay? Now, the way the district is set up is that you got the principal who leads the school. If you go to the principal and you're not satisfied, then you go up to the next level. Principals have what they call executive directors, managers. You go there. You have an issue there. You can just take it all the way up. Then you got chiefs and so forth and so on. But the ombudsman, usually what happens is that the parents come here. So if you're not satisfied with a school-based or district position, you come to the ombudsman, okay? That's my job. And then as ombudsman, what I'll do is reach out to the chiefs because it may be a policy issue. It may be a regulation or a practice is what people actually do. You know what I mean? You practice, you can have a policy and procedures, but what you actually do becomes your practice. So that's what they should do. But you should always start to try to solve your problem at the source of the problem.
Okay.
So if you got a problem with a school, don't just automatically come to the ombudsman. Go to the school, and ask your questions and give feedback. Now, I will say that we, as a district, we are looking at we're looking at internal relations and external relations. How we treat each other as colleagues and how we treat our constituents. So that's the outside and the inside. And we need to have both on point. We need to know how to treat each other, and we need to know how to treat our public. And we have to make the public feel like they're welcome and wanted. But a lot of times, parents don't try. You know what I mean? They feel, a lot of parents feel like, well, if I go there, nothing's going to happen, because that's how they feel. And in some cases, they have reached out and they weren't satisfied. That's why you have an ombudsman. That's why an ombudsman is in the district, and it's not so much a me, it's the function. It's the ability to have your voice heard and to make sure that there is a response of some kind. And like I said, the goal is always reconciliation. You know, the adults, children are so smart. They see holes in adult relationships and they know how to play those. But if all the adults, I think every school building, they need to have some non-negotiables. You know what I mean? The things that will trigger a certain response. Okay? And I'm not talking about just throwing kids out of school. I'm talking about setting a norm, setting a way this is how we're going to do it around here. and you bring the parents in. What I like to tell parents, what I like to ask parents, sometimes I do parent training. What I like to tell parents is that in order for you to help the schools do better, give permission to other people to correct your child.
Mm.
I didn't say spank your child.
Mm-hmm.
I said give them permission to correct your child. So if your child is doing something they should not do, then the adults shouldn't be afraid to say something to your child because you're going to come in mad. Don't say nothing to my child. And so, no. That used to be a norm in the Black community. You know that. You've heard about it if you haven't experienced it.
Yep.
You know, there was a time when all the parents, it takes a village to raise a child. We had that in operation. You could correct the child. You say, oh, no. Young man, watch your mouth. No. Mm-hmm. Young lady, we could do that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we need. We need parents to give approval, give permission. And you can do that. Those kinds of norms can be established at the schoolhouse. The schoolhouse is the battlefield. That's where the real work of the district gets done. The district is a support to the schoolhouse. Okay? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's the work that has to be done. That's the battlefield. That's where we're going to win or lose. If we're able to give the children what they need academically, socially, emotionally, if we can establish, if the school can establish that kids, you don't have to fight your battles. I'll fight your battles. You let me handle it. You know, but sometimes it's so toxic and there's so much anger and hostility that it's so hard to get people to give you the trust you.
Yeah.
Want to look out for them. So the things that we've been talking about are things that are just natural and normal in human relations: trust, relationship, caring.
Yeah.
You know? So that's the only thing that's going to save us, not just as a district, as a nation.
Yeah.
As a nation.
I totally agree. I thank you. Listen, y'all, I'm grateful that we are getting ready to have this meeting. I am just upset that it's on this day when we have Ms. Kern here. I'm telling again, you thought you was like right before we came on, you said, I don't know if it's gonna take this time. Well, you see, we had our hour, right? So and because there are still questions and stuff that I want to make sure that we can get to at your leisure, at your time, I'm going to request a part 2 to this. I think you've brought so many nuggets, you know, for people, and I think with the way that you explain this stuff, it will give people a better understanding, right, of what goes on and what happens in places. Because even for me, some of my disbeliefs and some things that I had going on in my head and my heart towards the district, you have helped out, you know, with and have me a little this much more optimistic about wanting to, you know, work with, and just because of experiences, right? But I think when you can feel someone's sincerity and genuineness coming from being within those walls and in those space, it helps changes. So, you know, I hope that you would definitely come back. It looked like you wanted to say something. I don't want to stop you.
Feel free to forward me those questions. You know, I'll respond to those questions. And I just want to leave you on this. Without hope, we're lost. So we cannot give up hope. And I think that I want to just encourage parents to keep fighting, you know, keep trying, keep pushing, but understand that we're not the enemy. We are one. We're one. We're one. So we got to break down our own things that keep us, you know, that put the barriers up. We got to let those down. And we got to approach each other with honesty and love and compassion. We do. We have to follow the golden rule. We have to follow the golden rule. And until we're able to do that, we're not going to meet the success that we're looking for. Mm-hmm. And God has given us the raw materials that we need. He's given us everything we need. You know, we just have to put it into practice.
Yep. Thank you so much, Ms. Karen. Thank those who are joined. We will get back to you all with the date. As she said, you reach out. Don't overwhelm her, y'all. It's a lot going on, but her office is definitely available to us. She gave us steps. Start at the source. So don't instantly go because an issue come up. Don't just say, "I'm going to call Ms. Karen." No, start at the source. Build your case, right? Like have your track records and stuff like that. Build your case before you go to her, and have your proof and your evidence showing that I did A, B, and C before I came to you. Okay, make sure that we are doing our part in this and not just going there, but we do, have someone who's saying that they're available and with us, and help us work with us. So make sure that we do our part. Thank you again for being here, y'all. Again, y'all, 6:00, we're getting ready to go right into it. If you want the link, it's a different link than this link to come and share your thoughts on what we would like to see in an education platform for our new governor, because it's coming. We can't change it. We got another governor coming, right? And when you talk about influence over things that's going to happen in our school system, the governor has power, okay? Resources. The governor, Yep. We need stakeholders. We need y'all there. Teachers, students, parents, community members, guardians. We need y'all to be here so that we could build the people's platform for our education system. Ms. Karen said that we smart enough. We know. So we need to tell them what we want to see and what we want them to be held accountable for. So please reach out to us. Come to this meeting now from 6 to 7:30. We are signing off. I will see you Thursday at Tyrone's house, and we will be back here next Monday, and we're going to follow. Ms. Karen coming back, y'all. Ms. Karen is coming back here. Thank y'all. Peace and have a great evening.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much, Ms. Karen. Again, for being here. Did we go up? We off?